Hi, we're back to What is Government? We're now on Chapter 4, How Governments Are Chosen. In a democracy, the people who have been elected have to be re-elected, or new people must be elected within a certain number of years. However, the leaders of the countries that are not democratic change in other ways. When a government is run by a non-democratic leader, such as a monarch, it changes when one leader, the monarch, dies and her successor takes over. With a military government, the leader changes when one military leader replaces another. In both cases, the people of the country have no choice as to what their new government will be like or who will serve in it. In a democratic nation, however, that choice lies with the people who make their decisions through voting in elections. If all adult men and women in a country are allowed to vote, this is known as universal suffrage. This middle section, female suffrage. Until about 100 years ago, suffrage, or the right to vote, was limited to men, and only wealthy men. No women could vote, as they were not considered equal to men. All that changed in 1869 when women in the state of Wyoming gained the vote. In 1893, New Zealand became the first country to have universal suffrage. All women in the United States gained the vote for the first time in 1920. British women did not get equal voting rights with men until 1928. Down there, the picture, that's of Kate Shepherd. She was born in 1847 and died in 1934, and she was a New Zealand suffragette. So a suffragette is someone who fought for women to get equal rights for voting. Elections. An election is when every eligible citizen in a country has the opportunity to vote for the candidate of their choice to form a new government. In most countries, every man and woman over a specific age can vote. The minimum ages range from 16 to 21. In a few countries, such as Saudi Arabia, women still do not have the right to vote. In a democratic nation, such as the United States, voters have two or more candidates to choose from. Each candidate describes his or her plans for the government. Voters learn what the candidate's ideas are on important issues, such as education or public transportation. Then they can choose the person they think will do the best job at running the government. Right here, we have a picture. It says these citizens in Jakarta, Indonesia, supported Megawati Soekarno Putri in the presidential election. And then down here, we have Silvio Berlusconi celebrating becoming the president of Italy in 2001. Candidates work hard to gain enough votes to win. They visit different places to meet voters. They make public speeches. In some countries, they or their parties may advertise in newspaper and on television. Voting. On election day, every voter has the chance and the responsibility to vote. Some people mail in their vote, but most go to their local polling place to vote. In many countries, voting machines are used. Telephones, the internet, and even cell phones are sometimes used to help people vote more easily. After everyone has voted, the votes are counted and the results declared. One main way of counting votes and arriving at a decision is known as a simple majority. In this method, voters mark their choice. The candidate with the largest number of votes wins, even if this is less than half the total. Up here, we have a picture. It says Kennedy for president, Johnson for vice president. Posters are a popular way of trying to win votes. Down here, we have some ways of voting. It shows Archbishop Desmond Tutu votes in the South African elections in 2009. And right here, we have an electronic voting system that was used in India in 1999. In some countries, such as the United States, citizens vote for the president and members of the Congress individually. This means that the head of the government and the members of the lawmaking branch of government are often from different political groups or parties. Political groups are a collection of people who have similar goals about how to run the country. In this system, people with different ideas have to find a way to work together so that the interests of many groups are represented. In other countries, such as the United Kingdom, the largest political party in government runs the country. The other political parties form the opposition to it and offer constructive criticism to the government to make sure that other interests are heard. Here you can see a man voting. It says Braille ballots make voting easier for blind voters. And then at the last one, it shows citizens in East Timor voted in the country's first independent elections in 1999. And here's this little sidebar. How often do leaders change? Democracies hold elections at different intervals. Most countries have elections every 2 to 6 years, with the gap between each election either fixed or set at a maximum time. In the United Kingdom, an election for Parliament must happen at least every 5 years. In the United States, the president is elected for 4 years and may be elected a second time. If the president is convicted of a crime by the Congress, he or she is removed from office. Changing the government. In democracies, governments change as people's needs and desires change. Most democracies have fair and frequent elections and regularly updated laws, which adjust to changing conditions of the world. Many countries have constitutions that describe how the government can be changed and even how to change the constitution. For example, the U.S. Constitution includes a section that tells how amendments or new sections can be made in order to change or expand the Constitution. Not all governments are able to change as smoothly. Some are changed by revolutions or uprisings. One group of people or political party within a country may feel that the current government isn't working well. It may believe it knows a better way to run the country. If enough people feel the same way, they may be able to overthrow the government and take control. Sometimes revolutions can be long and difficult, and many people lose their property and often risk their lives. The picture shows East German patrol guards looking at West Germans demonstrating in Berlin. Germany used to be split in half. There used to be an East and West. Now they're united again. Okay, this page. Almost every country in the world has had a revolution at least once in its history. In the 1640s, England had a revolution that led to the execution of King Charles I and the setting up of a republic that lasted for 11 years. The United States came into existence when the 13 colonies revolted against British rule and declared independence in 1776. France had a major revolution beginning in 1789. One of the most important revolutions in world history occurred in Russia in 1917. At that time, Russia was at war with Germany, and there was a severe shortage of both food and coal. Tsar Nicholas II was an absolute monarch, and his government was not popular. When workers went on strike in March of 1917, the Tsar's soldiers refused to support him. The Tsar abdicated or resigned, and a new government was formed. This government also had problems, and in November of 1917, the Second Revolution led to the creation of the world's first communist government. Up here you can see a picture of the Mexican revolutionaries posing with guns drawn in 1916. And down here, this bottom picture, communists in Moscow, Russia during the revolution in 1917.